So, ladies and gentlemen, I have my guru back again. Please help me welcome. You guys already know him now. He is now all over the place. My great guru and friend, Kavindra Rishi, Jeffrey Armstrong. Namaste, sir.
Namaste. It's wonderful work you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So I remember last time, I didn't really put emphasis on it, yet I titled the video, The Man Who Talks to Planets. You're like, very interesting. I'm like, of course, because you have spoken and I know exactly what you are about. And so I'm like, you know what? I want to start this conversation with you where I want my audience to know that you're a person who actually connects, talks to the planets. They're living beings out there.
It's a really important point. What you're saying. It's actually something that happens. I remember I started keeping track of the planets in 1967. And so, especially if you think of Shani of Saturn, Shani is the Tai Chi of planets because everything moves so slow. And humans don't think in Saturn time. They don't think 30 years to go around the sun. Imagine.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 or 4 times in your life, Shani goes all the way around. So not only do we Jyotishis talk to the planets and listen, but we actually go on their time standard. And that affects the way we live our human life and look at human life, because we see this important planet moving at such a slow speed. So by focusing on that, we change our human focus from the fast, speeded up everyday life to this very deep background, slow orbit, point by point by point. And the saying for Shani is, the devil's in the details.
Yeah.
So in a way, what the Jyotishi does after a while is they erase some of their human files and download Deva files so that they can interface to the Devas, and it does something to the way you are a human.
Okay. Now, what I wanted to also know, because, I had questions like these. I mean, are these the planets that we see in the sky? Are they just spinning balls of rock and molten lava and, a little bit of atmosphere and ice? Or are they actually a living being that we're just not able to relate to due to their different types of different biomechanical suit?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kapiel. Imagine that animals' eyes are set to look downward or forward, because that's what they have to deal with. What's right in front of them and the food that's just downward on the earth from them. But our neck and our eyes are set to look up at a 45-degree angle. And so we have an oblique 45-degree angle relationship to the planets, which are there, but they're not quite here. But they're enough present that they're the backdrop, you might say, of what we're doing. So now think of our karmas, think of us as a divine being on a journey with many, many thousands of lifetimes. We go up through the species. Finally, we get to human. Then we start out human, but more or less still an animal. Then we go up in our animal nature starts to be a little less interesting, and the ideals that life is based on start to get more interesting. So think of the devas, the planets, the grahas, and the others as the archetypes of whatever is happening in a universe. There's a source archetype. And that source archetype is where everything is coming from. In the Veda, they say that yata pinde tata brahmande. The little one us, our body, is a microcosm of the big one, the Brahmande. So we're a small scale model of the entire cosmos with all the archetypal realities that are there making life possible. All of the laws of nature, as the devas, are also inside of us, which is why if we go within, the whole cosmos is there in miniature inside of us, and we're inside of it because it's outside of us.
Okay.
So that's the context of this deva relationship. So as humans evolve, they start looking up more.
Yeah.
They start asking, where do the ideals that life is based on really come from? So we automatically start becoming more philosophical. There's a great verse in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 7, verse 19 that says, Bahunam janmanamante yanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabhaha. And it means after many lifetimes and many births, at a certain point we accumulate enough knowledge that we come to understand that the whole container of the universe, which is also called Vasudeva, is the source of everything. And we connect the dots. We connect our individual life and self, planet, experiences, archetypes, and we connect it to the whole reality, which is viewed as a great being who's the source of life. Vasudeva Sarvamiti is the source of everything. And it's very rare. So it then says, such an Atma, a Maha Atma, such a Mahatma is rare. It takes a lot of evolution for a human to get to the point that they can hold that perspective in a steady way and not get distracted by the world and lose it. So that is called Jyotish.
Now, in this scheme, a person like me, like you, who gets interested by looking up 45 degrees into the sky and then gets fascinated with this concept known as Jyotish and astrology, does that shows that we may have come to a certain point in our life there now we're wanting to know the real truth? Like, is wanting to love Jyotish and study Jyotish, is it like a process going from one level to the next level? Or is it like everybody can do this, or only certain select few realize that, oh, wow, this is interesting?
You know, Jyoti means light. So if one becomes enlightened, the other English word that's related is joy. It's Jyotish.
Yeah, Jyotish. Yeah, that's funny. Wow.
So the light delights us. And just by our pursuit of light, just because our hunger for light increases, you could say, we start looking at the movements of light more. And then we start to see correlations between what's going on in the sky and what's going on in our life. And you know, this is the pivotal relationship with Rahu Ketu, because Rahu Ketu is the expression of the relationship between the moon, the sun, and the earth. So this fluctuation of light is also mentioned in the Rig Veda, where it says, Jagat Atma Surya Chandra Mamana Sojata, that the sun is the soul or Atma of the universe, and the moon is its mental faculties, its manas. And this is why in Jyotish, the sun and moon only rule one sign, because they're the king and the queen. Mm-hmm. They're the Purusha and Prakriti of the cosmos for us. So as it says in the Vedas, the sun makes things ripe, the moon makes them sweet.
I see.
So this pulsing, revolving, with the backdrop being the nakshatras, or the rashis. This draws us toward our full potential. And so becoming interested in Jyotish and then even a Jyotishi is really a part of the process of enlightenment, which is why it's part of the curriculum of the Veda.
Right. Okay.
You see? So it's thought of as a natural step. If you remember, once again, the way the Parashara Aura Shastra begins, Jivanam Karma Falado Graha Rupi Janardanaha. Jana Ardana, the source of all birth, is ultimately responsible, but acting on behalf of Vasudeva Janardanaha are the grahas, the 9 grahas, who are specifically delivering not punishment, which is a mistaken notion, but the cause and effect that we have put in motion. It's a kind of cosmic where was I? These are things we put in motion. So think of stars as having been sending their light for a long time at the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
So that means in previous lives, the things we did were put on a delivery schedule for us. And some of the things landing could have been 100 lifetimes ago. Some of the things landing could have been very old packages that have been coming toward us for quite a long time. And each lifetime, there's a new delivery schedule that we're implicated in.
So let's say in this life, we learn Jyotish, we find enlightenment, or we at least come close to it. Does that mean that next birth, a delivery package will come and say, well, now you have to become a serial killer and you're going to have to kill 9 people? Is that something that can happen once you achieve certain things, or can those boxes be, you know, they can be like misguided somewhere else?
Yes, good point. In fact, that's the question that Arjuna asks in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter on Ashtanga or Raja Yoga. Krishna's explaining yoga. And he says, well, you know, all you really have to do is control your mind and focus it and be the Atma. That's it. That's yoga. And Arjuna almost laughs at him on our behalf. He says, yeah, well, that's easy for you to say. You're Bhagavan. Yeah, but us? So then he says the punchline. He says, frankly, I think it would be easier to control the wind than to control the mind.
Arjuna says that.
Yeah, Krishna. And so that's his response to this great talk on yoga. He says, yeah, I doubt it. Easier to control the wind. So then Bhagavan says, yes, but with diligence and practice, it is possible. And then Arjuna asks what you just asked. He says, okay, but what if you fail? Because he's saying in another way, that's very likely. He says, what if you fail your yoga?
Mm-hmm.
You fail to stay in divine consciousness, which he's saying is most likely. Do you perish like a small cloud in the sky that is blown away by a strong wind? Essentially what you just asked. Is all your work for nothing? You have so many lifetimes.
Yeah.
You just get blown away, and again, now you're a serial killer or some other thing put in motion before or whatever.
Right.
And Bhagavan says to Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, one who dedicates themselves to being their true self, to achieve enlightenment and eventually moksha, eventually freedom from any bondage, is never again overcome by their past or by the inertia of this world. And then he says, unsuccessful yogis, if they don't quite finish, take their next birth as a deva. Literally, we could become grahas in a future life. we could become the devas running a universe, because the Gita says humans go back and forth. And if you are a Jyotish, as you and I are, and the many people listening have a keen interest, they were probably devas in their last life and yogis previously. And so they didn't quite finish. They went to Devaloka, and there they got spoiled. They saw divinity around them all the time. They acted as the laws of nature. It was beautiful and astoundingly revealing of the divine nature. Then they took birth again, so that's their current birth now. And now they look at this world and go, something's wrong. This place isn't satisfying me. I'm not getting enough out of it. It doesn't give me enough juice. I try stuff that everyone else, I get the hot dog and go to the football game, and it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
It's loud and noisy and boring. So at that stage, they're resuming. So then he says, and so they resume what they had been doing in their previous life. In this life, at a certain time, they wake up. They either get born in a family that's wealthy enough to sustain them to get the reasonable life they need to do that, or they actually take birth in a family of yogis, deep practitioners of some mystical tradition, and resume where they had left off. Now, FYI, the people with planets like the sun and moon in the 6th, 8th, and 12th house, Jupiter in very prominent places, certain other considerations, those are probably markers for that exactly. And when I see that in a chart, I say, you've got the stranger in a strange land birth. You've been outside the box your whole life. Like you're the king of outside the box, my friend.
Yeah.
You're so far outside the box, you can't even see the edge of the box.
Exactly, and you know that too.
Exactly. So I call them the aliens.
You know, and this whole time I'm like, oh my God, I'm trying so hard to fit into my friends group and cousins group.
Yeah.
Why is it that I just can't? I keep going back or keep failing at their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And until I found Jyotish, I'm like, okay, now I understand. Now I get it. Before that was just like, something's wrong with me. Like, why am I not fitting in their lifestyle like they all want?
So think there's aliens and then there's aliens.
Yeah.
That's why people who are aliens from their past life, meaning who come back like this, usually do better if they leave the country of birth.
As I did, yeah.
Yeah, because I was born in Detroit, Michigan, which is another country from, I'm now living in Canada, but even California is another country from Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if you leave your country and go to another place, they say, oh, you're an alien. And you go, yes, as a matter of fact, I am.
That's right, yeah. And that's where you feel okay, like, oh yeah, I'm in a stranger in a strange place.
That's cool.
What do they care?
Yeah, that's right.
I can do whatever I want.
You get acceptance as an alien. So any aliens listening need to learn to accept themselves better. And you may need to go away from your harshest critics to do this, which is a little distance from your birth family and a little distance from your birth location. And you may be accepted as who you really are in the new place where you reside.
Wow.
Yeah. So here's where this leads us next, my friend.
Okay.
This is a very interesting track that we're on. So we've come back, and just think there are those who come back still asleep, and they haven't completely awakened yet.
Yeah.
Or even partially, meaning they're still in slumber. I made up a term for this. I call it I-amnesia. Matter has temporarily doped me, and I've forgotten who I was and what I was trying to do in my previous lives. But if it's there in your chart for this lifetime at a certain time, certain transits, certain sadhisati or dasha or something, bam, something will hit you, crack you, and the other person cracks open, wakes up, comes out and goes, what's all this?
Yeah, that is so true. In my Saraswathi is when I fell in love with Jyotish. I'm like, wow, I love this. And then you just become obsessed. And it happened on Saraswathi.
Yes, of course. All those trigger points can crack someone open. So this is very important for us as Jyotishis. That's because we're often facilitators of this, peeling the layers back a little bit further. but we're not supposed to control the process. We're supposed to very sensitively facilitate it, like the difference between a C-section and being a doula and helping the birth.
Mm-hmm.
So we're supposed to help the birth of people who come to us ready for that, and we can't rush others into that moment until their time is right for it. And that's why we're supposed to be doing, so here's the other link, a daily sadhana or daily practice. We're supposed to be yogis first, because the sequence of Vedic learning is first you do that, get solid, chant mantras, do your practices every day, which means you can keep restoring yourself back to a vision of yourself as a divine being. In that state of mind, you then talk to Ganesha and you say, Om Gam Ganapati Om Namaha. Oh Ganesha, I approach you to remove my human obstacles. Om Srim Hrim Klim Ganeshvaraya Brahmarupaya Charavae Sarva Siddhi Pradeshaya Vigneshaya Namo Namaha. Help me to become perfect enough that I can help others to remove their obstacles while they're emerging in this human condition. So just as psychologists have become in our culture, so Jyotishis have for thousands and thousands of years been in India and Bharata. They've been the life coaches, the facilitators, assisting the emergence of various stages of evolution, helping the person choose life partners that will go down the road reasonably with them because their destiny lines are similar on a similar timetable. Just as I'm sure you know, a Jyotishi is not supposed to recommend 20-year-olds who are both going to go through Saraswathi at the same time to partner.
Yeah.
Because they'll have 3 kids, be 35 or 40, both go into Saraswathi, and they may discover entirely different selves when they get there. Marriage breaks, children don't have parents, and our culture, 60% divorce rate.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was higher. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
At least. Yeah. Very true.
So let's tie this to something, and then I'll take another question from you.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to tie this to is the Yoga Sutras. Because your question was very important. What do we do with these old karmas as Jyotishis?
Yes.
How do we help people to deal with them? And what are they? And how do we deal with them so we're not dragged back down into the human condition so that we don't have enough divinity to be of assistance to other humans or humans becoming divines?
Mm-hmm.
See, for our job description, we have to have a certain standard and status quo of stability. And like I said about seeing Shani all the time, not forgetting sometimes, when I said 67, I meant every day since 1967 when I began, I have been aware of where Shani was. And now it's 2017, and I'm tracking that motion still. So that means I've lived in such a way that since I began until now, that was never pushed out of my life.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that led me back to being a yogi. So remember what the Yoga Sutras say. The whole Yoga Sutras are explained in the first 4 verses. So I'll make this very simple. The first one says, Ata Yoga Anushashanam. Ata means now, and the now means if you're qualified, if you're ready, if you've done the prerequisites, and if you're ready to emerge to the next level of divinity, start doing this. Then it says, yogas chit vritti nirodha. The famous line, yoga is removing the vrittis from your consciousness. Those vrittis are the active states of karma that we Jyotishis are looking at and are working with. And the word that comes from vritti is advertisement. You hear vritti in there.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone that comes to a Jyotishi is having the fructification or attempted fructification of a vritti, or new vrittis are being implanted inside them and they need a strategy. So the next verse says, Tada drastu svarupe avastanam. Now what I want you to notice is that here it says svarupe, and for the mantra describing the grahas it says jivanam karma phalado, graha rupi. Same word, means form, which means function. From form comes function. So the planet's function is to give us our karma. What is our function? Svarupe. So the verse says, Tada, now that the vrittis are not obscuring it anymore, drastu, you can see, svarupe, your true nature. In two ways, what you're supposed to do in this world and who you ultimately are as an Atma, as a transcendental being. Those two. And what is Jyotish concerned with? Helping you to actualize yourself in this world according to the nature that you've been given this lifetime. Your Svadharma. And underneath that, some people are going to have to find their Svarupe also. Look at how many people are doing yoga right now.
Yeah.
Look at how many people have come back from previous lives to reawaken their yogic practice. It's amazing. It's a renaissance. So here's the verse I wanted to end on before you ask the next question. Mm-hmm. It's the fourth verse, and it says, if you don't do that, vritti sarupyam itaratra, then all you see day after day and night after night is the word iteration, itaratra. All you then see day after day and night after night is Groundhog Day. It's your karmas.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah. So that vritti is a vortex created by the orbiting of the planets. It twists our DNA from two strands into a double helix, and it twists us and makes us dizzy because it's always turning. And we get confused and lost. So the Jyotishi is the one whose Jyoti, whose light, is steady. They're like a lighthouse to ships in a storm. The client comes in a storm of karma, and we're supposed to be steady and solid because we hold our light steady, and we're a lighthouse to help them find their way across the waves. And they're in Saraswathi or some other big thing, and they're having a divorce with lawyers and the full Neil deal, or whatever they're having. Or they're lost and can't find themselves, or they can't find their career. So we're like rescue dogs. We're like St. Bernards in the samsara ocean. And we're supposed to steady them and show them the process of what's happening to them, which is exactly similar to what happens in yoga. That yoga, you do pose and then counter pose, and then you get to the center point, and then you go within, and then you control your senses, and then you chant the mantras, and you see the devas, and then you achieve the higher states of awareness, and you download that Om Bhur Bhuvasva, that light of the sun starts to shine inside you all the time. Now your light is on full time, and now you could even work that way as a Jyotishi.
So even Jyotishis who are going through, let's say a client comes in with Saraswathi, but the Jyotishi himself is going through Saraswathi. But if he is centered and if he is aware of things, his Saraswathi is not really doing anything to him. He's just here to just be steady and help the client.
And not only that, he's got a talking relationship with Shani, which I even teach to my clients who are sophisticated enough to do it. I say, take a black object. Here, someone gave me this the other day. It's a black pyramid.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. And so that you can assign that to be Shani, put that on your altar, and then every day when you do your mantras, you say, okay, Shani, I know you're visiting me every day for the next 7.5 years, auditing my books. You're here to teach me, help me emerge, help me move to the next level of manifestation within matter. I'm not afraid of you. You're a deva, but I want to cooperate. So Om Sham Shanaischaraya Om Namaha. Om Sham Shanaischaraya Om Namaha. Om Sham Shanaischaraya Om Namaha. Just 3 times every morning. But now they're talking to this being that they didn't know was there.
Mm-hmm.
And the being is real. Imagine right now there was someone pushing really hard on your shoulder and you didn't see the being. After a minute, you'd say, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
What's going on? Wow, can't even sit up. Wow, something's really wrong with me. That's what everyone is thinking if they don't know Shani's real. He's pushing on them, saying, okay, I'm here. We're going to have a conversation about how you're manifesting within matter for 7.5 years, so listen up. So our job, tell them about that conversation. Get them in the game. Give them a go-to so they can talk to Shani and talk to Ganesha. Say, okay, I'm a work in progress. Om Gam Ganapati, help me to perfect myself. Thanks, Shani, you're here working on me. Okay, if I lose a bunch of stuff, I'll assume it had to go. I'll assume you're just paving the way for me to be my true self. This is a divine thing. I'm not a victim. This is a process. Look at what a difference.
Absolutely. And also what I wanted to ask is, a client coming to an astrologer, do they also have some refined karma that, wow, they get to see an astrologer and get their karma read out? And are they on a process of a spiritual path? Because sometimes, most of the time, a client will be more concerned with their job, their promotions, when they will get married. You know, when you said in the last video, when would I get paid and late?
Yes.
That's their main question. Does that mean that they're really here to find that light in themselves more than just finding the answers to these questions? I mean, is there some divine path for them?
That's an important one. You know, we all see this with people all the time. It appears they're one thing and that they're not listening or couldn't hear us. They're a garbage man or a truck driver or something unlikely, whatever it is that they appear to be. And you say something and you think it's going over their head. Maybe you're talking to a friend and they're overhearing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden they chant a mantra or they say something very profound. They turn out to be a philosopher in disguise. So what I'd like to say is that a lot of the people that come are just obsessed with the world because it's been pushing on them so hard that it appears that that's all they think about. But really, in their heart of hearts, they're asking other questions. That's when I realized years ago that the problem was I believed them that that was all they were really here for.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
But that's not all they're really here for. That's just the easiest thing to ask about because it's being the most troublesome. Because look, the world's giving over to robotics. So we Jyotishis are now going to get millions of people coming and say, I don't have a job.
Yeah.
It's going to get worse, not better.
Absolutely. They said just by 2020, the human resources position will be obsolete.
Yeah. Travel agents are now because of computers.
Exactly.
the world does things to us and people and everyone, and we're somewhere in between. So if you speak to someone as if a part of them knows, and this is the subtlety of being a Jyotishi or any kind of counselor, you don't always speak directly to something, but you speak to it on an oblique, and the unconscious is listening, even though you're addressing the conscious. And this is an important point, that to be an astrologer is not just to give people information. It's not just to give them this verbal download and give them all the details. And this is where many Jyotishis are lost in the details of the chart, rather than being like a chiropractor and making a difference in the biggest thing that the person really needs to deal with, and seeing that and doing that so graciously that there was no blood, the surgery didn't even disturb them that much, but it was clear that there's some next thing that if they do that and get that accomplished, if they find their correct job, find the work they're supposed to do, that was the one thing that was worth the price of admission, and the rest was window dressing. If they get that, everything shifts.
Now, here's the thing. That is very interesting you say that, because whenever I try to give people a reading about who they are and what they should try to develop into, they end up saying like, I don't really want to hear this philosophical mumbo jumbo. I just need to get this prediction. Can you please just tell me when will I get the job and this? I don't, and I've had people who said that I just don't have time for all this. I need to know this. And I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Like, okay.
You say, okay, Maharaj, so you're just telling me what to do. But I'm the Jyotishi, so you come to the doctor and say, don't give me those pills, give me this.
Yeah.
So we have to be skillful it's a kind of negotiation. Everything is, in a way. When you're trying to introduce a new culture. So the first thing that I say is, the first thing is, astrology is not about predicting everything. It's about you understanding the process. So when things happen, you know how to respond so that the karmas don't escalate when they land into something that causes harm in your life. So in fact, you've come to me as a cause and effect consultant, not just a predictor of what you're going to get, but rather a trainer to train you how cause and effect works, so that the next time you start to lose your temper, you might look to see if it's full moon. You might look to see if there's another event around you that's pushing on you. So just coming to listen and hearing this context may expand your bubble from just this much space and what you want. I don't know if I mentioned this last time. I went to a parade on the street event here in Vancouver. Did I tell you about walking your bubble?
No.
Yeah. So I went out. There was one of these sort of like Greek day or something like that, and thousands of people on the street. And I went out, and as I was walking down the street, I tried to make eye contact with people. But what I could tangibly see was they had a two-person bubble around them, and they had no desire to go outside that bubble. They weren't there to meet people, so I gave it a name. They were there taking their bubble for a walk. So most people live inside of an orbit that is about 20 people big. And they're afraid of getting outside that bubble. Whereas Jyotish is about the orbits of the planets. That's a bigger bubble.
Yeah.
So we're trying to expand the perimeter of their bubble. And it's up to us to explain, and if that means giving their money back, explain that predicting is not the most important thing we do.
Yeah.
It's coaching people how to create a better life through understanding how cause and effect is working over time. That is really our important function.
You know, it's funny you said that. I've actually heard this term on my comments and my emails. You know, you're a really great motivational speaker, but you don't make predictions the way we want predictions. You know, I can go to someone else for motivational speaking. I've heard that many times, and I'm just like, I don't, I'm indifferent to their thought process, but it's amazing that they don't get when I'm trying to talk about Saturn and this and that. They just want like a squeezed juice, and that's it. They just want to drink that cup and leave. And
yeah, especially in a consumer society.
yeah.
So do you remember my book on karma?
Yes, absolutely.
It's called Karma, the Ancient Science of Cause and Effect.
Yes, I think I have it here.
It's a small pocket book.
Yeah. Oh, you know, I got this too from
oh yeah, the Vedic Astrology deck.
Yeah. I just did
a 9-part video series on that.
Yeah.
With 3 hours to each part. It's on our website.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because these are like very helpful for beginners and even advanced people. Like, it's like you see that, you look in the back like, wow, okay. It becomes like a guide, like just.
Yes. Well, it's because people's learning has been uneven and they haven't gone up step by step in learning about the categories of nature. Yeah. Did you know that the meaning of Ganesha is that Gana is also gum or gung. The word gang comes from gung. So Ganapati is the Isha, Ganesha, of all the protectors and all the gangs of beings on the planet, all with different gene codes and all in different categories, because he's the master of Samkhya Yoga. Samkhya is science in the Vedic before it was in English, before it went to the West. It's called Samkhya. So basic Samkhya is the basis of Jyotish. And Ganesha removes the obstacles because when you learn about cause and effect, you stop destroying your life by having the wrong attitude toward cause and effect. So I have a term for this. When my karma book, if someone from India buys it, they call me back and say, oh my God, I was from India. I thought I knew karma. I read your book. I did not know karma. You know karma. Now I know karma too. And I say, that's because I'm a karma mechanic.
Karma mechanic. That's kind of like
Jyotish.
Like all these great terms of yours. Karma mechanic.
So if you want, you can name this episode Karma Mechanic.
Karma mechanic, yeah.
Because that's what we become. We become coaches to understanding the process of cause and effect, not predictors of the goods that the catalog is going to send you in the mail.
Yeah. They want to know the catalog, but hey, you got a bad catalog. Do you really want to know about it? You know, and that's why I stopped making all these, and especially after talking to you back in 2012, I made an oath, like I'm not going to make any negative predictions. They have already so much negative happening in their life. They don't need to come to Jyotish and find out that there's more negative to come. They'll find out. My job is to help them just prepare subconsciously how you should deal with that. So
absolutely.
That's how I've become this very unorthodox person in the astrology world, because for me, it's not about wanting to do matchmaking and when you get the next job. I do that, but I do it on a more level where, look, this is what you're born to do. This is like your dharma. Now, all these other things, your job, and fine. But, you know, I always do that. But again, some people are still very young and they just want like, no, when is it? I need to make money now. You know, I need to get my check.
Well, this is related to something. Can we tie this into something important for all the Jyotishis?
Yeah.
And I want to make a comment on this supposed difference of opinion between the Zodiacs.
Yes.
As if there is more than one.
Yeah.
All right. So first, with all due respect, I am deeply affectionate over many lifetimes to all astrologers, to all philosophers and thinkers, to all beings, but especially those who are deeply investigating the universe. But technology has done a great thing for us right now.
Yeah.
There's an app on my phone called Sky View.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, get it. It
I
shows
have
you.
this one that shows where the planets are.
There you go. High five,
Yeah.
low five.
Yeah.
So this app shows exactly where NASA and everyone else is certain the planets are.
Yeah.
And where they have to be is in the context of the stars. They have no choice, just like we don't, because they and we are in the midst of, in the context of those stars. We have no choice about it.
Yeah.
So there are not two zodiacs. There is only one. There has always only been one. But there's something amazing that everyone should know, that the Earth itself has an axis, and that axis is wobbling. It's inclined 23 and some degrees,
Yeah.
between 23 and 24. So as it turns slowly, it marks a circle above our planet. And one of those circles, talk about Shani being slow, takes 25,920 years.
Wow.
Okay? And if you divide that by 12 for the 12 signs of the zodiac, you get 2,160 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's an age. Right now, we're in the age of Pisces. Back when the Greeks started writing the book that influenced Western astrology, Claudius Ptolemy's Tetrabiblos, they were emerging from the age of Aries and entering the age of Pisces. But in India, they'd gone through many, many, many of these 2,000-year ages with Jyotish fully active. And the Mahabharata, the great epic poem in which the Bhagavad Gita exists, was written over 5,000 years ago, 5,200 and some years ago, 150 years ago. How do we know? There are 300 astronomical references in the Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata that describe exactly where the stars were, exactly where the planets were, when the solstices took place, when the war took place, everything about it, the two eclipses that were either side of it, it's all described. And because of those descriptions, it's now possible to backdate through the star positions described there to exactly when it was spoken. And it's no longer debatable.
So why is it that there's still debate where people want to follow that other zodiac and then they
I'm about to give you my opinion on it in any. So there's only one zodiac, and the respectful thing that Western astrology should do is just do whatever they want for being psychic or calculating, but not call that a zodiac, because it's not. Because it's not where the planets are in the stars. So what I want to say to anyone who thinks there are two zodiacs is a new planet was just discovered just outside of our solar system.
Yeah.
And it's called Stupider. Anyone who says there are two sets of stars and two sets of planets is just stupider. That is not true. It is not scientific. It is not verifiable. And it's not a belief system. Astronomy is not a belief system. Astronomy is a science. Sciences are not subject to opinion. They're subject to proof. But here's the thing everyone's missing. In a previous life, all of the astrologers, all of the fortune tellers, tarot readers, soothsayers, seers, were some kind of visionary in a previous life. So they came in with siddhi. It's not the system that's working when they're able to predict things. It's their siddhi that's allowing them to predict. Just like Elvis was not a great person, he was a great singer. He came in with an ability to sing that everyone found amazing. He came in with a siddhi. If he had said the moon is made of green cheese, it wouldn't have been true because he's a good singer. So even if someone can predict the future or know things they shouldn't know, that has nothing to do with changing the zodiac.
Yeah.
It only means they have some gift of sight that they received in a previous life. And so when they use that, they may see things. And if they say, I got that information from looking at the universe differently, who am I to say? But if they say there are two sets of stars and planets, I say, you have stupider rising. Because that's just stupid. It's not controversial. It's not debatable. It's just stupid. There's only one set of stars and one set of planets moving through them, and the planets are in the star that they're in when they're in it, and when they're not, they're not. It's just that simple. And this has been the way the zodiac has been recorded for at least the 5,000 years, and many before that, since the time of the Mahabharata. So what Vedic astrology is really about also is a historical record that goes back 10,000 years, at least 5, measurably from the Mahabharata, that says the stars and everything are moving because of the wobble of the earth. And that wobble is another motion, just like Saturn's, just like the planets. It's just as real and just as unchanging. And just as the eclipse cycle can be calculated thousands of years back and into the future, because these motions are constant, so all these constant motions are not an option for someone to say, I'm an astrologer and I disagree where the planets are. You do not have that right. It's not a belief.
Yeah.
You have the right to say anything, but not to be taken seriously.
So where did this corruption and this confusion, okay, not when, why did it come?
Well, because we're humans. Humans can do anything they want. They can be a legend in their own mind. They can project things and say they're true. It's different than a religion, which is somebody's estimation of the final and ultimate being. Now that they get to do. I don't care. Anybody can say the supreme being is made of green cheese. As far as I'm concerned, that's my religion. I say, doesn't hurt anyone, go for it. No problem. So however someone wants to pray, no problem. Wonderful. If somebody wants to say, I have this vision of the divinity, I would never say that sounds stupider. I would always say, good luck with that. Have a great day. So when I say stupider, I'm not being cruel. I'm being truthful. There's only one zodiac, only one set of planets, only one set of stars, and they are where they are. And astrology has always concerned itself only with that, and nothing else is scientific. Everything else is just in your head, but it's got no connection to reality. Now, you may know all kinds of things from your previous lives' abilities, and that's karma.
Yeah.
But karma, or your ability, or Elvis's singing, or anyone's religion, if a religion says the stars are not where they are, I would say, no problem with your religion, but that's stupid, because they're measurably where they are.
Wow.
So this is where people are confused. They're afraid to say, that's just not true. And the people who've said it are not embracing reincarnation. This is where it really all starts. The worldview of Western civilization is a one lifetime world.
Yeah.
And it is that is the real limiter. Until one accepts samsara, and many, 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 many lifetimes, unlimited number if you want, and an immortal self doing that, then they are not in the paradigm of thought that is Jyotish. And that is the important understanding to have, is that we should treat this as science and not as subjective. In that case, I don't even have to say, you're stupid. I say it to be funny.
But then, like when you say, okay, well,
what I say is
stupid, but then the thing is, they might be building a whole crowd of them stupid following the same thing. Is that?
That's what I'm saying. And that is just by being misinformed. So where I was going was, now, if I soften it and say, okay, I won't call you stupider.
Yeah.
I'll say, but that's a good word. Stupa means covered over with matter, a Buddhist stupa. It means to covered over with the 5 elements of matter. That's what it means. But the fact of the matter is that it is simply not true. And that it is simply not true. There are not 2 zodiacs. There's only one. And that's the simple answer. And anyone who says there's more than one has to prove it empirically by pointing and showing that it's true. Showing that the planets are not where they are right now.
Yeah.
You see? So until you reduce it to such a simple question, it sounds subjective. What you can know from any system of looking at the universe, whether it's yarrow sticks, the I Ching, tarot cards, there's all kinds of psychics that can know anything. They can pick up a chicken bone, grab you by the hand, and download a huge amount of data. So that doesn't prove that scientific things are no longer scientific. And that's where the confusion lies.
Yeah.
So Vedic astrology is not necessarily able to tell you more, because that depends on who's telling you.
See, that's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
Astrology is not wrong. It's the astrologer. And if they follow the tropical or the sidereal, well, then that's your karma to get that. But astrology is what it is. It is.
But it would be a consideration for everyone who's in the tropical system, just to think this through. So I say that those who are practicing Western astrology are planetarians. They're clearly using something up in the sky, and through a system of looking at it, they're deriving information, and they're using that information to come to conclusions. And some of that is common between both systems. But they are not astrologers, because astro means stars. It means where the planets really are in the stars. The reason I mentioned this wobble is that over 2,000 more years, the difference between tropical and Vedic understanding will get to be 40 degrees, and then 60 degrees, and then 80 degrees, and then 180 degrees. So it's so absurd that by the time it gets to that, you won't even be able to point to the same section of the sky.
Yeah.
It won't be 1 sign off, it'll be 5 signs off.
5 signs off, yeah.
Or 10 signs off. So anyone who understands this has 2 choices. You can go to a person because you believe in their subjective ability as a psychic. And anyone can choose anyone for that reason. Because who knows?
Mm-hmm.
The second is a profession like ours defines itself by something that is scientifically true. So we are the astrologers. Anyone who's a siderealist. Anyone not is just not scientific. They may be something else, and I believe they should give themselves a different name so people are not confused. But you know, my friend, the real truth is Western astrology is $1 billion business for people in the journalistic and entertainment industries. So it's because Western astrology started as entertainment that this hasn't changed.
That's what they consider it as, entertainment.
It is. Yeah. And so now, if I can bring us back to where we began, the yoga practitioners and Jyotish are all coming toward each other. And where we're seeing Vedic astrology, Jyotish going, is it's going toward both meditation and an understanding that karmas are not punishment, but they're cause and effect over many lifetimes. And that both the Jyotishi and the Vaidya, the Ayurvedic practitioner, are both consultants along with any kind of yoga practice to help people with a many lifetime view get a broader and more professional attitude toward cause and effect, and managing cause and effect in their life, which will then answer the question, why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah.
The answer is, why do apparently bad things happen to apparently good people?
Yeah.
Because the good and bad is relative to the karmas that are being received for the various things that we've ordered from the catalog.
Yeah. My last question to you is this. Why is it that we cannot clearly remember our past lives so we can emotionally feel remorseful for what we did so we do not make that same mistake again? So if, let's say, 7 lifetimes ago, I killed a woman, mocked her purse, and now here I am as an astrologer, yet I'm not really feeling, I'm not connecting with that mistake that I made. Why is it that we just can't simply, oh, yeah, 4 lifetimes ago, I met this woman in this city. My God, I feel so bad. What should I do to repent myself? Why is that?
Well, the first answer is it's not repentance that we're really supposed to discover. It isn't that we still have to pay in that particular way. The idea of repentance and forgiveness was invented more by the Catholic hierarchical church once Christianity moved over to Catholicism. Many mystics would say that Catholicism is a Roman form of some of the teachings of Christ, and that real Christianity is very different than that. And real Christianity embraces reincarnation. But the concept that it's forgiveness we need is not really the correct thing, nor that we particularly need to be punished, because again, it isn't punishment. So it isn't that we need forgiveness, and it isn't that we even need to learn what we didn't know then. It's just that we need to tolerate the incoming cause and effect and not be confused that it's a commentary on what we're doing right now. In other words, this is where the gunas come in, where we need to learn what is correct behavior and how do I burn off whatever karmas can be burned off. So remember that karma is in stages. And the first is the impressions that we receive today. You go to an event today and the following things were going on and you received impressions. Those impressions are called vasanas. If you take a shower and chant your mantras, you can probably get rid of them. The next one are vrittis, and they're inside you already, and they're growing. So think of them as weeds in your inner garden. But by weeding your garden, you can still pull those out. So that karma hasn't yet grown to maturity. Some are from a previous life, and they show up as desires from a previous life. Some are from advertisements implanted inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the yogas chit vritti nirodha. That's the vrittis that yoga can remove. All of that junk can be pulled out. And that's what I meant, that the astrologer, the Jyotishi, is one more coach in a process of weeding the garden of cause and effect and getting it clear. The third kind of karma is called prarabdha.
Mm-hmm.
It means it's fruit about to fall off the tree because it's already ripe. There isn't anything we can do about that. And that is the karma that a Jyotishi could predict. They could predict that prarabdha karma to some degree, and even they could do so without causing harm if they were very judicious and careful. Certainly, you can do that with predicting the body type. A good Jyotishi should be able to look at a horoscope and predict the Ayurvedic body type of the person that they're going to be doing a reading for. Then, in advance, they should know the body type. So that prarabdha karma, there's one more kind of karma that we've been dancing around, and it's very important. It's called sukriti. It's the karma that Krishna said never goes away. It's the continuing result of all of our transcendental work, all of our yoga, all of our good deeds, all of the things that we do that cause growth and benefit in us. That is not merit or demerit, and it's not one of the 3 kinds of karma. It's something that cannot go away no matter what you do next. So to use your metaphor, you could have been a yogi gotten to a very advanced level, went crazy, went out, robbed a bank, killed some people. That does not negate the Sukriti of your previous lives or this life. So I'd like to say a metaphor for you, that the things you do that are against the laws of nature are called papa or pop. They give you black pebbles. The things you do that are positive in nature are punya. They give you white pebbles. And the Sukriti is gold pebbles. Life is spending black and white pebbles. Spending your punya and spending your papa. And getting sukha and dukkha, pleasure and pain.
Mm-hmm.
But Sukriti never goes away. Not this life, not the next life. It can only increase until it gets so big that it pops up every time you take birth. It pops up instead of your material life first. And especially in places like India, we see this, where kids are 5 years old, they go over to the yogis sitting in around a fire and say, I want to be a yogi.
Yeah.
They don't want to go to school, they don't want a life, they just want to be a yogi. They just, boom. That's where they were. Shankaracharya, by 16, he was a sannyas.
I've actually brought somebody, a 10-year-old Jyotish, and who's also a Vedantic expert.
Yep.
He's like just pretty much a reborn yogi, catching up to where he left off. And
I was in India at a Sanskrit contest, and an 8-year-old girl won the contest, chanting memorized shlokas from the Rig Veda.
Wow.
So it's important to remember that both these siddhis, which are friends in Western astrology, and I am their friend, even if I joke and say stupider, what I really mean is untruth to say there are 2 zodiacs. But they're our friends, as everyone is. We see everyone as our friend and hope we can benefit them. And this knowledge was sent down through history that way, and so was the Vedic knowledge, as information that helps facilitate our understanding of many lifetimes and our continued process of trying to perfect ourselves. And none of us are perfect, and we're all a work in progress. So if I call someone else stupid in one area, no doubt I am in another.
Yeah.
So we have to keep our sense of humor and keep our lightness of spirit, but it's also important to be scientists, and what's provable is provable. And what's subjective, we should have the grace to let everyone have their own subjective belief system, and that's a grace that everyone has. So this is for us as Jyotishis.
But do you think it can create a chaos? Is that why we don't remember all of our past lives, remembering our wives? And
it would take up all your memory.
Oh.
And then you'd obsess and you'd look backwards. As a matter of fact, if you want to see this very simply, watch when people age. This is the downside of Shani. Shani makes them feel like death is next. So from maybe 60 on or 70 on, they live in the past because there's more pleasure in what they did in the past than what they believe they can do now. And this is one of the ways we as Jyotishis actually help people, is to teach them how to have their fire burning from 60 on and be doing something relevant in their life right now that makes them have more pleasure from the present moment than from their past.
Past, yeah.
Or else they even start living in the past while their body's still alive. Imagine what would happen if you downloaded the last 100 lifetimes. Talk about watching television. That's all they would do.
Exactly. Okay, that makes so much sense. Yes.
It's not relevant anymore.
Like we wouldn't do any action. I'll just be sitting here remembering every single thing that I've...
Yeah, watching old movies. So that's why that's kept away from most people. And others just get glimpses, but they're wise enough by then to know that dwelling there is of no use to them. And pretending about the future or making a story about it is of no help to them. But it's very important to know what your current pressures are, what your current unfoldment of karmas are, and with whom, and how to turn that into the best possible lifestyle. I know that that's the intention of the Western astrologers as well, but it is a bit of a problem that they're still calling it a zodiac. So I hope they'll reflect on this a little bit and shift that. And we shouldn't, as Jyotishis, call it a zodiac. We should call it a system of looking at the planets.
Now, very, very last question. I know because I just keep getting these great questions in my head. Like, I have children, I have a wife. What, after I am gone, will it matter to me who these people are? Or will there always be a connection on the other side? Because I hear all these stories like, well, your greatest enemy could be your spouse, your greatest enemy could be your children, and you're living in this matrix and cycle. So what is our relationship with our current family, and what happens to that same family dynamics once you pass over?
Well, for that question, which is an excellent one, we go to the definition of samsara. Sam and Sara. Sam means together, and Sara means swimming in the ocean. Sagara, Sara. Samsara is swimming together in the ocean. And at any given time, there are pods of dolphins like us who have podded together through various actions in the past that related us. The only relationship we have is our karmas. And consequently, when those are finished, we'll have no special relationship with any of the Atmas. And this is why when you become a Mahatma in consciousness, you already feel a special connection to everyone, to all living entities, and you treat them that way. The real convincing emotion of being enlightened is that even if you disagree with others, like we do with the Western astrologers over calling that a zodiac, you really see them as your beloved, them and everyone, your enemies, the people against you, the people for you, the people insulting you, the people complimenting you, the animals, the bacteria. You see all of them as very much like yourself, and therefore equally lovable, equally divine, equally amazing. And what this does is it neutralizes all of that clandestine prejudice that causes the wars and conflicts. That's why we can learn to disagree with each other on various things, whether it's religion or whether it's opinions or whether it's science. And if we hold this framework, and this is the great gift of the Vedic culture, then we will actually truly love everyone and not just the group that serves us right now. But you see what I said about taking your small circle for a walk?
Mm-hmm.
That's what samsara is. It's taking your small circle for a slightly larger walk.
Okay.
And this is why when you truly become enlightened, you see every living entity as your child, as your brother, as your sister, as your mother, as your father, as your beloved, as your wife, you don't treat them that way because boundaries are different. You don't act it out, but you do feel it at the core of your being by seeing their true self. You treat them that way. And this is the most important reason why we Jyotishis should always do sadhana every day. So the joy of that and the enlightenment of that is always displacing the small-mindedness and selfishness of ours. And we have to become good enough at speaking to our clients that they understand that we're not predictors of just a delivery schedule,
mm-hmm.
but we're facilitators of a human relationship with the devas, that we're karma mechanics, that we talk to the planets, and that we see all beings as divine, and we're ultimately here to facilitate their journey through life because that's a part of them perfecting themselves as a divine being.
Okay.
And we walk both pathways, embracing the material as a positive experience, and yet being moksha or liberation oriented, knowing that ultimately that's our destination as well. So we're affirmative of both paths of yoga and pravriti or action in the world. Both of those things we're positive about. But we are untwisting those vrittis that the Yoga Sutras talk about. And we're learning how to live in a balanced place. So maybe it's a good place to end together.
Uh-huh.
There's a mantra that I like to chant to Vishnu. It's the Vishnu Gayatri. Because this means I've gone back to my balanced place.
Yeah.
So I can, for a moment, I can talk this way, and a moment I can be this, or I can be very creative or recycling. But here's the place of balance, which is holding up the whole universe. This is the axis. That this brings us back here at the heart. And the verse in the Bhagavad Gita that I love is chapter 15, verse 61. You can look this up afterwards. This is the verse that explains Jyotish in the Bhagavad Gita. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriday she arjuna tistati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra arudani mayaya. And it says, O Arjun, all living beings are attached to a yantra, a machine or device constructed of matter, which is constantly revolving. The controller of all lives in the heart of each of those beings and is directing their journey through the realm of matter. That's Vishnu. That's Janardana. That's Vasudeva. So the mantra says, Om Narayanaya Vidmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodayat. Om Narayanaya Vidmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodayat. Jivanam Karma Falado Graharupi Janardanaha. The ruler of birth who gave everyone this opportunity is within their heart, is guiding their wanderings, and yantra is what we draw the horoscope as. That's a yantra. That shape of the horoscope is actually a yantra, and we, the Atma, are attached to this body, which is also a yantra, the horoscope being its blueprint. And this machine is what we are using to swim through matter in samsara and further our education and development here in the university that is the universe. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. I wish we had time to listen to one of your poems, but I'm pretty sure you have to go because people don't know you. I've heard so many great and deep poems on planets and astrology, like poems. I believe you had one on Saturn too. And I'm like, wow, people would love to hear that, but I'm pretty sure you have to go. But
perhaps on another occasion.
Enlightening this, brightening the light of Jyotish again.
Thank you, my friend, and for all that you're doing in holding the context for this to expand in everyone's lives. It's a great service that you're doing.
Absolutely. Namaste. Thank you. Namaste.